You ever think about those missing persons cases you hear about, and it's like, wow, that could never happen to someone I know, right?
Yeah.
Someone really strong, independent, you know what I mean? Someone tough who can handle themselves.
Yeah.
Well, today's deep dive uh, might challenge that thinking a little.
Okay.
It's the story of Siobhan Slater.
Okay.
She was 38 years old from Flint, Michigan, and she vanishes in December of 2016, leaving
Wow.
behind a ton of these clues that just don't add up. So we're going to try to figure all that out today. What do you think?
Sounds intriguing. Let's dive in.
All right, so to really get a handle on this whole mystery,
Yeah.
we got to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Siobhan's cousin Shimona first noticed something was off when Siobhan went totally silent on social media,
Oh, really?
which was not like her at all.
Right.
No posts, no replies, nothing.
Huh.
And her phone was disconnected. This is right after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So Shimona decides to do a welfare check at Siobhan's apartment.
Yeah. Makes sense. For listeners who don't know, that's when someone usually, law enforcement goes to check on someone's well-being if there's, a safety concern.
Right, it's that feeling like something's just not right.
Exactly.
So what did Shimona find when she got there?
So the apartment itself looked totally normal, nothing out of place.
Okay.
Actually, it was almost too neat, which was kind of weird considering how busy Siobhan always was. But here's the thing that really set off alarm bells.
Okay, what's that?
Siobhan's pet snakes, they hadn't been fed.
Oh, wow.
And she loved those snakes,
Oh.
really loved them. For her to neglect them, something was definitely wrong.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
So we've got an abandoned apartment, no signs of life, and unfed pets. This is not looking good. What happened next?
Well, Shimona was obviously worried sick,
Right,
so she filed a missing persons report right away.
of course.
And as the police start investigating, things get even weirder.
How so?
They found Siobhan's car abandoned in some apartment complex miles away from where she lived. Yeah, and there was no connection between Siobhan and this complex at all.
Huh. So just totally random.
Yeah, it was super strange.
So now we got an abandoned car in a weird location on top of everything else. Did they search her apartment for clues?
They did, but what they found just made things even more confusing.
Oh no, what was it?
So the apartment was neat as a pin, remember?
Yeah, you said it was almost too neat.
Right. So there was food in the fridge and cupboards.
Okay.
But get this, all her dresser drawers were empty.
What?
But her closets were full of clothes. It didn't make any sense.
Empty drawers, full closets. That's bizarre. Did they find anything else that could explain what happened?
Not really any hard evidence.
Okay.
But they did talk to one of Siobhan's friends who had also been trying to find her.
Okay.
We'll call him Martin. Martin had talked to Siobhan on the phone on December 2nd,
Okay.
just a few days after Thanksgiving. And he said she sounded really emotional, like crying about her mom who had died the year before.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. And Martin thought it was strange because Siobhan didn't usually show her emotions like that. So maybe she was dealing with some grief.
It's possible.
Eh.
Was there anything else going on in her life that could explain why she disappeared?
Well, this is where things take a really wild turn.
Oh.
See, Siobhan wasn't just a home healthcare worker.
Okay.
She was also running a pretty big cocaine operation out of a second apartment.
Whoa, hold on. A second apartment and a drug operation. This is getting complicated. What happened at this other apartment?
So when the police went to check it out, they found a note taped to her mailbox.
What did it say?
Just one word. Deceased.
Whoa.
And remember, at this point, the police had no reason to think Siobhan was dead. This note was the first sign of anything like that.
That's creepy. What did they find inside the second apartment?
This is where the mystery gets even deeper.
Okay.
The apartment was practically empty. Just a couple chairs and some water bottles. Nothing else.
Seriously.
No signs of a struggle. No sign of Siobhan herself, like she just vanished.
So we've got two apartments, one that's totally normal and one that's empty. A car abandoned in a random spot. And a note that says, deceased. Did the police have any idea who might have written the note or where Siobhan could be?
Well, they started looking into Siobhan's relationships with men.
Okay.
And what they found was kind of disturbing. They learned about an ex-boyfriend who we'll call Adam.
Okay.
And Adam had a history of violence against Siobhan. He had even been in prison for hitting her with her own car.
He hit her with her car.
Yeah.
That's awful. Was he a suspect in her disappearance?
He was definitely on their radar. He had gotten out of prison just a few months before Siobhan vanished. And there were rumors that she might have been thinking about getting back together with him.
Oh, wow. So a potentially dangerous ex is back in the picture right before she disappears. Did they investigate him more?
For sure. But as they dug deeper, they found another layer to this whole thing.
What do you mean?
Siobhan had restraining orders against 2 different men.
2?
Yeah, and one of them had even threatened to kill her.
Oh my gosh. It sounds like she was living with a lot of fear even before she disappeared.
Yeah, it seems that way.
So did any of these leads go anywhere?
Well, these things take time, especially with a case like this with so many unknowns.
Right.
As they kept investigating, they looked into Siobhan's finances and found out that an automatic deposit that was supposed to go in on December 1st never went through, which was totally out of character for her. Seemed like something must have happened before that date.
So the timeline starts to get a little clearer. What did the police do after that?
They kept working the case, but it went cold for a while.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't until 3 years later in 2020 that something totally unrelated happened that might be connected to the case.
What was it?
A domestic assault report came in that sounded eerily similar to the way Adam had attacked Siobhan.
You mean when he hit her with the car?
Exactly. In this new report, a woman said that her boyfriend rammed her car over and over again.
Oh my God. That's terrifying.
It was the same MO as Adam's attack on Siobhan years before.
So this new report, years later, suddenly ties back to Siobhan's case. What happened next?
The police looked into this new assault, and you want to know who it was?
Who?
It was Adam.
Wow, are you serious?
This put Adam right back in the spotlight as the main suspect in Siobhan's disappearance.
That's huge. Years of silence, and then boom, a new piece of the puzzle appears. What happened after that?
Well, the investigation's still going on, so the police aren't saying much.
I get it.
But it's obvious that Adam's history of violence and this new incident give them a lot to think about.
Yeah, for sure. This story just keeps getting more and more twisted. We started with an empty apartment, then all these relationships, a creepy note, and now a possible break in the case years later. What does it all mean?
That's a million-dollar question.
Right.
We've got so many unanswered questions. Did Siobhan choose to disappear? Was she a victim of foul play? And what about Adam? Did he have anything to do with it?
So many questions. And without a body, the possibilities are endless. It's just heartbreaking for her family, all this uncertainty.
Absolutely. Imagine not knowing what happened to your loved one, just constantly wondering, searching for answers. The fear that justice might never be served. It's a heavy burden to carry. It's cases like Siobhan's that really get to you, It's like one minute everything's normal and the next it's a complete mystery. Makes you wonder if you really know anyone at all.
Yeah, it's true. You never really know what's going on beneath the surface. And in Siobhan's case, there's this one detail that always kind of stuck with me. They found a container of raw chicken in her car.
Raw chicken?
Yeah. At first it seemed like no big deal, right? But what if it's a clue?
Oh, that is interesting. What makes it so significant?
The chicken had gone bad. Like it was rancid.
Okay.
And the expiration date on it was December 5th. So that means she probably bought it sometime between December 1st, when we know she was still active, and December 5th.
Right, so it helps us narrow down when she might have disappeared.
Exactly. So even something as ordinary as a grocery item can become part of the puzzle. But why was the chicken still in the car? Wouldn't she have taken it inside?
That's the thing, right? It's like something stopped her in her tracks.
Yeah.
Picture this. Siobhan's driving home from the store, maybe thinking about what she's going to make for dinner, and then boom, something happens. Something that stops her from going inside.
That's kind of scary when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Did the police check out the liquor store where she bought the chicken? Maybe they had security footage.
Oh, they tried. But the store only kept recordings for 9 days.
Oh.
And Siobhan bought the chicken before that. The owner did say that she was a regular customer, though.
Okay.
And that she'd been in there around the end of November, the beginning of December. So it backs up that timeline we were talking about.
So the chicken might not be a huge breakthrough, but it definitely adds another layer to this whole mystery.
I agree. It shows that even little details can be important. You have to be really thorough in an investigation. Makes you wonder what other little clues are out there just waiting to be discovered.
That's true. So with all this in mind, and with Adam now being the prime suspect, what's happening with the investigation?
Well, this is where things get tricky. Since the investigation is still going on, the police are being very tight-lipped.
Right. I understand. But based on what we do know, what are some of the big questions that still need answers?
Oh, there are a bunch. Like, what happened to Siobhan between December 1st and 5th? Did someone take her? Did she leave on her own? And what about Adam? Did he do something? Was this another one of his violent attacks? Or is there something else going on? And then there were those other guys she had restraining orders against. What about them? Could they be involved? We really don't know much about those cases.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And without a body, the possibilities are just endless. It must be so hard for her family, not knowing what happened.
It's devastating. Imagine not knowing if your loved one is alive or not. The constant worry, the searching for answers, the fear that they might never get justice. It's a horrible thing to go through.
It reminds us that these cases are about real people, real families. Siobhan wasn't just a missing person. She was a daughter, a cousin, a friend, someone who's deeply missed by her community.
That's right. And we can't forget about the people she left behind, the pain and the trauma they've experienced. It's important to remember that these cases have a ripple effect. They touch so many lives.
You're right. It's a reminder that these cases aren't just puzzles to be solved. They represent real loss and the need for answers and for someone to be held accountable.
And it shows how important it is to support the people who are working to find the missing and bring closure to their families. Groups like Crime Stoppers are crucial in these cases. They help gather information and keep these stories in the public eye.
Absolutely. Any little piece of information could be the key to solving the case. It also reminds us to be aware of what's happening around us and to say something if we see something suspicious. You never know, you could be the one to help bring someone home.
You know, one thing that really touched me was that Siobhan's cousin, Latoya, still shares pictures of her on social media.
Really?
Yeah, she's keeping her memory alive. It's incredibly powerful. It shows how strong love is, and that even in the face of such tragedy, hope doesn't die.
It's a beautiful and heartbreaking image at the same time. It reminds us that even though someone is missing, they're not forgotten. Their absence leaves a huge hole, but their story lives on and inspires the search for truth and justice.
This deep dive into Siobhan Slater's disappearance has taken us on quite a journey. It's a complicated story with so many twists and turns, and ultimately it remains unsolved.
Yeah.
But it forces us to look at some hard truths about the world we live in and how vulnerable we all are, even those who seem the strongest.
It really makes you think. In a world where we have so much information at our fingertips, how can someone just vanish like that? It's a question that haunts investigators' families and anyone who hears Siobhan's story.
Siobhan's case shows us that there are still mysteries out there, stories that we may never fully understand. But even without all the answers, the search for the truth goes on.
And maybe that search itself is a testament to the human spirit, our refusal to give up hope, and the belief that even in the darkest of times, the truth will eventually come to light. If you have any information about Londra Siobhan Slater's disappearance, please contact the Flint Township Police Department or Crime Stoppers. Even the smallest detail could help bring closure to her family and friends.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it made you think and maybe see the world a little differently. We always encourage you to keep learning about these stories, keep asking questions, and keep searching for answers.
And be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more in-depth looks at intriguing cases and thought-provoking discussions. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a world of mystery and discovery. Makes you think, doesn't it? Like, even today with all the tech and everything, how can someone just disappear?
It's really scary when you think about it. And what's so crazy about Siobhan's case is that it touches on so many bigger issues like domestic violence, the drug trade, and how vulnerable women are, especially in communities that are already struggling. It's like all these complex problems we face are coming together in this one story.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that these aren't just headlines, you know? These are real people with real lives, and every story is complicated. Siobhan wasn't just another missing person. She had a family, friends, a whole community that's still looking for answers.
Right, and we can't forget about the people she left behind. The pain they're going through not knowing what happened, the fear that they might never get justice. It's a burden they carry every day.
It's like a reminder that these cases aren't just mysteries to solve. There's real loss involved, and people deserve answers. Someone needs to be held accountable.
Exactly. And it shows how important it is to support the people who are working to find missing people and bring closure to their families. Organizations like Crime Stoppers, they're so important. They help gather information and keep these cases in the public eye.
Yeah, any little bit of information could help. It also reminds us to be aware of our surroundings and to speak up if something seems off. You never know. You might be the one who helps bring someone home.
You know what really got to me? Siobhan's cousin Latoya still shares pictures of her on social media,
Oh, wow.
keeping her memory alive. It's so powerful to see that kind of love and how even when things are so uncertain, hope never really dies.
It's a beautiful and heartbreaking thing, isn't it? It shows that even though someone is missing, they're never really forgotten. They leave a hole in the world, but their story continues, and so does the search for truth and justice.
Our deep dive into Siobhan Slater's case has been quite a journey. It's such a complex story, so many twists and turns, and in the end, it's still unsolved.
He really is.
But it makes us confront some uncomfortable truths about the world and how even the strongest people can be vulnerable.
It makes you wonder, like in a world where we have all this information at our fingertips, how can someone just vanish without a trace? It's a question that stays with you.
Siobhan's case is a reminder that there are still mysteries out there, things we may never fully understand. But even without all the answers, the search for truth has to go on.
And that's what shows the strength of the human spirit, never giving up hope, believing that even in the darkest times, the truth will eventually come out. If anyone listening has any information about Lalandra Siobhan Slater's disappearance, please contact the Flint Township Police Department or Crime Stoppers. No matter how small it seems, every detail could help bring her family and friends some peace.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope it made you think a little bit and maybe see the world in a new light. And as always, keep learning, keep asking questions, and never stop searching for answers.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more in-depth looks at these kinds of cases and discussions that will make you think. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a world of mystery and discovery.